Welcome to the weekend must-watch here on the Intercut podcast channel, where we wade our way through the latest in theaters, streaming, and on-demand. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, they hunt to live. He lives to hunt. It's Arturo
You
Zurita.
can't make a tagline that good and not put the movie in theaters, man. That is it's too good
Yeah.
it's too good of a marketing scheme right there. But good amount of movies to talk this week, from very original movies to adaptations. A lot of great stuff on streaming, a lot of great stuff in theaters, and a lot of awesome festival picks that have come out. So pretty good, solid week, I'd say, of movies that we're getting at the beginning of August, which again, we talked about last week. August tends to not have like the best releases,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a couple of things that I'm looking forward to for the rest of the month and things to
Yeah.
recommend. So,
I got myself a little too comfortable with like, oh, there's only really like one or two things to worry about per week in theaters and whatever. And then this week comes by and there's actually a lot of options out there from across the various streaming services,
hmm
a few options in theaters. So definitely a whole bunch worth talking about as we get into our what we're watching. Why don't we kick it off with the biggest movie in theaters of the weekend, and that, of course, would be the latest starring Brad Pitt. This would be Bullet Train, a action comedy directed by David Leitch, who's kind of carved himself in Hollywood as stunt guy turned director
hmm
who makes these very like kinetic tactile action sequences that are almost watching, watching dances unfold a little more than your traditional action scene in a Hollywood movie like this. This one taking place in Japan when an unlucky assassin named Ladybug is trying to go about his job peacefully and retrieve a briefcase from a train. However, fate has other plans as he runs across lethal assassins on his adventure. Art. This is the guy John Wick, who more recently directed Atomic Blonde. How do you think Bullet Train holds up to the other David Leitch movies?
I I really like John Wick. I know that was a duo that they had going on there. I also think Atomic Blonde is really good. I know that this was an adaptation from a book, so I can't really compare the story
Yeah.
in terms of how
Well,
that's handled there.
and interestingly, I think it was Antoine who was supposed to
hmm
originally adapt the book, but the
And I
book
saw
is a
he's
lot more
producer.
serious.
Easily, yeah, and it's
Uh,
got a lot of through lines that are going on that I'm not going to say I'm looking at a director like David Leitch to be like, that's the person who's going to bring all the narratives together. I mean, he does it in
yeah.
the movie, but what I'm looking for is the action, and I think if you're looking forward to this movie, if the trailers have intrigued you in any way, I don't know about the IMAX because it doesn't build up to that ratio, but I caught this bad boy in Dolby, and let me tell you, it delivers what you want from an action movie. This is Snowpiercer, but it's Brad Pitt getting punched every second that he possibly can. There's this
Mhm.
crazy, mob. What are they technically in the movie? Uh, Gang society,
I mean,
secret
is it like
society in the background.
Yakuza or
Yeah,
something?
it's the John Wick world happening overseas, that you get hints of here and there, but for the most part, you're following different characters, and they're all the main characters. Like, why Brad Pitt is front and center because it's Brad Pitt, and he's going to be the one who's
Right.
pushing the movie, and he actually has a lot of input within the film. But you don't even start with him. You're starting with a father who's may have lost his child because he wasn't taking care of him, and he kind of wants to seek revenge. And then you got these other two twins who aren't really twins, but they're there for a reason, and maybe everyone has been put on this train with a bigger motive in mind. But honestly, you don't need to follow all of that. I don't think it's going to make sense by the end of it. You're just there to see people beat up
Yeah.
in different carts, and I think it delivers on that front.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that, what you're talking about, is something that I was struggling with in the movie, is this thing, the almost like Smokin' Aces style thing, where
Mm,
it's like all these different characters with all their different motivations circling this similar end goal, and you end up a little bit like just lost in the chaos of it. Just like structurally, the first half of this movie has more in common with Family Guy than it does most action movies, with all the flashbacks and references and quick cuts. And I don't know, I was having trouble getting in the rhythm of it a little bit. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
actually get like a set piece. Like the set pieces are all extremely well orchestrated, and it's funny in terms of the ways they'll like spill out into each other and how things will come back. But I don't know. There was something about it that felt a little bit like devoid of like enough character to hold on to. It kind of felt a little bit to me like the Marvelization of some of
Bro.
these movies, in that there's like so many quips and everybody's kind of just like undercut any sense of sincerity with like a glib joke. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something about it that tonally felt off to me.
David Leitch did Deadpool 2. And spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Deadpool 2, Brad Pitt does appear in that movie. Kinda, sorta. He's the invisible guy who appears for like one little tiny cameo. David Leitch was the stunt guy for Fight Club. Like, he has been with Brad Pitt for the longest time, and now the stunt guy is directing the stunt person for Brad Pitt. Like, it's this whole full circle thing that's happening here. And it almost feels like instead of going into the Marvel umbrella, they're trying to make their own. There's a specific CGI shot with Brad Pitt that I think looks better than that Gray Man BS that they gave us last week that just looked like a gray blob. All the money was put into that shot because he knows, why would I go be part of the corporation when I could just make my own here? Bro, hearing the behind the scenes to this, it is the Brad Pitt vehicle. You're talking about it not feeling like a character. They said Brad Pitt decided what his hair was going to be. He brought in that goofy bucket hat that he has you see it in the trailers and such. The studio did not want him to have that. He's like, nah, I'm going to keep this. They kept his tattoos. The producers don't know how to explain why the character has those tattoos. Bro, the bracelets Brad Pitt wears on a daily basis make it to the film. This man did not change anything. That bidet scene, you see a little bit of it in the teasers, and it plays a big part in the movie for some reason. It's because they wrote this. I hear
it also plays a big part in the 4DX showings of this movie, but
see that, yeah, I ignored the 4DX showings because I didn't want to get beat up and come out like Brad Pitt does in this movie. But he said that it was during the pandemic. Everybody took the toilet paper, and he was just like, I believe that the world should have bidets. So they imported a bidet to be a co-star in this movie. And when I say it's a co-star in this movie, I mean water bottles are co-stars in this movie. Costumes are co-stars in this movie. Stickers.
A Fiji bottle has a whole dramatic arc.
That could be super goofy, and it could be right up your alley. It may be what detracts you from this movie. It was fine. Again, I'm with Zach on the jokes not being like the biggest element in the movie. I'm there for the action. I think it delivers. It uses the jokes to like give you a breather, but then it goes on to the next card and just gives you more and more and more energy. I do see this being something that they want to continue. There is like a minor after credit scene with some characters that I think may be something that they want to leech off of, make it something bigger. But it may just be me, Zach. But I feel like there's two different types of Brad Pitt. You could get the serious Brad Pitt, who sometimes is kind of funny, or you get the super goofy Brad Pitt, who sometimes gets serious. And I think I lean more on the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood Brad Pitt. I think I like him when he's the serious, like, dude, more than he is the quirky guy who's having an existential crisis. This is the second Brad Pitt performance where he's practically like a variation of his character in The Lost City of D, which is also funny because they did cameos for each other, him and Sandra Bullock.
Basically just swap cameos. Not
it's
just
a collab.
Sandra Bullock.
Exactly. But for the most part, it's decent. It's decent for what it's going for.
Yeah. Like, I can't say the movie is not entertaining. You know, that's sort of not it. It's almost hard not to be given the variety of talented actors, not just those that you know are in the movie, but there are several cameos that I don't want to spoil, some of which I liked more than others. There's a final one whose face I'm a little bit tired of seeing and stuff like this. But
was that one spoiled for you?
That one was not spoiled for me.
Okay, I don't even want to go in the credits here because I don't want to spoil it for other people, but I was actually surprised by it too.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are enough things happening in this movie where I think you will be surprised by some points. I don't want to, like, say I didn't find some parts entertaining, because, you know, when they're throwing out as many quips and ideas as this, a few things are going to land. I think, though, just, like, the balance felt off for me. Like, it's not that it was a miserable time in the theater or anything. It's satisfying and it's fun, but it's not like I feel like I'll forget most of it very quickly. And even more than I do of these types of movies. Like I think there's more there in Atomic Blonde. There's more there in John Wick.
Fair, I agree. Final question.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny, bro.
Yeah.
You got to be there day one for his superhero movie.
I they put his flashback was so strange.
Well, they saw one episode of Breaking Bad and they're like that.
Yeah.
That right there. It was his scenes were shot in 35 millimeter for whatever reason. The whole movie's digital, and they're like, nah, it's Bad Bunny. He's coming in. His trailer's just as big as Brad Pitt's. We got to get it all the way. But he was all right. He was all right in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't really have many lines in the movie.
I don't want to get too into spoilers. He does his fight, and then even after he's done, they still keep him in the movie to just hang around for a little bit. But hey.
Who was your favorite performance? It wasn't Brad, it sounds like, but
there
were a bunch of
easily Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson. I thought they were both great.
Yeah.
Together they were fantastic. They talked about bonding so much that Aaron Taylor Johnson, they both have each other as their emergency contacts, which I think is so funny. They actually grew a lemon tree together and everything. So just this duo, I thought was fantastic in the movie.
Nice.
You?
All right, so Train, probably a decently entertaining time at the movie theaters, at least. The other wide release in theaters this weekend, it was Easter Sunday, directed by Jay Chandrasekhar, and it's starring Joe Coy, notably. A movie about a man returning home for an Easter celebration with his Filipino-American family. I didn't get around to catching this one, but Art, I know you had some time for it. What did you think about Joe Coy's big screen adventure?
If you were a fan of his stand-up, this is all of his stand-up bits in a blender put into a script form. Recently, I went back and I watched all of the stuff that he has out on streaming, every single stand-up that I possibly could, because I know that this guy's huge, dude. Like, he is massive in terms of coming in and selling out every time he's doing one of his tours. I have a bunch of friends who are obsessed with this dude, and I think he speaks to just those cultural nuances that I think a lot of comedians are able to thrive on. When you search him up, you're going to get Fluffy. You're going to get Gabriel Iglesias. You're going to get someone just comedians who know how to make fun of the familiar things that we have going on. This movie is every joke that he's ever done. just stuffed into one thing.
How smooth is that, though? Because I think, we've seen, whether it's TV or movies, there's lots of times where people will try to capture the magic of somebody who has a big stand-up act and then package it. And then sometimes that it's a Seinfeld or something like that. And then times it comes out and it's that short, the short-lived Whitney show that was terrible or something like that. Do you feel like they are trying too hard to fit his stand-up routine into a movie, or does it actually natural here?
So the movie's called Easter Sunday, and I didn't think he was going to give the message, Zach. He finds a way to go to church, and he ends up with a mic and does a whole stand-up special. The movie will find ways for him to do a bit. And again, is that forced? You could be the biggest fan of him. You cannot deny he finds a way to grab a mic and just starts doing things. It is a movie where he is a struggling actor trying to make it, but he has 30,000 lying around to give it to every other family member. So it's he's playing old Joe Coy on the come up, but with the present rich Joe Coy problems. And I found that to be a little funny and goofy. But again, there are moments where the jokes don't work because it's definitely a stand-up routine. And then there are moments where he took something, one of his bits in his stand-up is that it is embarrassing to go to school when you're young when they pack your lunch because they're not packing it in a lunchbox. It's going to be a Cool Whip container. And the best version of that joke in this movie is just walking into his mom's house and she's packing leftovers. You don't have to push in on it. It's just a funny little visual gag. Other times they are very much look at me gags. I'm going to go and do this whole bit. It's a movie where every character is telling him, come on, Joe, you got to talk to the people. Dad, I know you're not there for me, but as long as you show up, I think the teacher will like you speaking. it all revolves around him to the degree of him making up for his cousin's debt that he needs to kind of like cover up for. Um, and every single moment that he's doing something, he's also struggling with getting the actual role back home. All the while, he has his agent, who is also the director of this movie. I'm going to pull him up here. Some of you may know him from a little movie called Super Troopers. So I think he's really funny in Super Troopers. I know that he's directed a couple of other stuff as well.
He's not the best director.
No. That's why I'm bringing this up. He directs himself as just doing like the same bit that the manager does of always having to hang up throughout the film. But it's kind of giving you if you look at these movies right here, this is as high as the quality of the direction. That's the vibe of the movie. Again, Troopers. I like Super Troopers too. That would be that'd be the epitome of what he's done. Overall, I think the movie's okay. If you're a fan of his stand-up, again, you're going to get an amalgamation of all those jokes up there. But it's very much the vehicle of I am Joe Coy. Look at me. I made it. So shout out for that. Shout out to Manny Pacquiao. Plays a big part in the movie. There's also a nice little cameo that happens in the film where I didn't know he was Filipino. And that's like a huge part of this cameo's appearance. So, hey, for the Joe Coy fans, I hope you guys supported it out there. Because there was one dude who went to the fan event to see it. But that was because they turned it into a Fathom event and you couldn't get it covered by A-List. But Easter Sunday, out in theaters. And yeah, should be interesting.
All right. Yeah, definitely for the Joe Coy fans, at least Easter Sunday. Let's talk about something that is available in virtual theaters. I've brought it up a couple times on the show now because it was a South by Southwest movie. Gone in the Night, formerly titled The Cow, with Winona Ryder, Dermot Mulroney, and John Gallagher Jr., about a couple that arrives at a remote cabin in the Redwoods to find a mysterious couple already in their rental. Art, I've set the table. I told you what to expect. I told you not to get your hopes too high over this twisty, turny, non-linear story. I told you that the cow is not what you think the cow is going to be. So how did that go? In terms of setting you up to finally catch Gone in the Night?
They should have kept the movie title The Cow, man. Might as well. At least you would have gotten a good title out of it. Zach prepped me, so I can't say that I went into it not already prepped for the disappointment. But I'm saying it's a decent enough streaming thriller. I think that if you were curious off of the trailer, there's enough there where you're never bored by the movie, but you're kind of confused as to like how they tell the story and what they're building up to, if that makes sense. Zach?
Yeah.
So I'd be in it the same way that you were. I don't think that it delivers that final punch the way that it thinks it's building up to, but I think that there's enough intrigue with the twists and turns.
Right, yeah. Like, it's a movie that I think it structurally sets you up for wanting moment, and I don't know if it really delivers on that moment, or at least in a satisfying. I felt like a lot of the characters were not super believable, especially like it's one of those movies that asks you to believe somebody or has been convincingly.
Yeah, and I think it slips up on that. And there's Winona's performance is like good at the beginning, and then towards the end, it feels like she's in a parody. It almost feels like she can't believe they're filming that part of the script, or that she said that she said yes to it.
We didn't rewrite this.
Yeah, but again, it's got some bonkers. It does some bonkers decisions towards the end of it that I think may not warrant you renting it and being disappointed. But once it comes out on a streaming service, give it a watch. See how you feel about it.
Yeah, so Gone in the Night, another option from virtual. Let's move on to I Love My Dad, virtual option. Another former by Southwest movie that we can talk about. This was an award winner at South by?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Well, it is a film written, directed, and starring James Morosini about a hopelessly estranged father who catfishes his son in an attempt to reconnect. The estranged father in this movie is played by Patton Oswalt, who is definitely the like main focus of the movie, kind of the point of view character. So you're getting the perspective of the catfish, not the catfish
Mm-hmm.
in this movie, and it goes in some and uncomfortable directions. I was thinking about our friend Amanda, who has made her distaste for cringe well known, and
This
that
is that movie.
she would really struggle with something like I love my dad. It pushing the envelope on uncomfortable barriers in father-son relationships in the name of like trying to solve these emotional wounds. It might be too much. It's probably going to be way too much for some people, but I was actually pretty fun and surprised. Especially in the way that certain sections are filmed, they do a thing where a lot of the relationship in the film takes place over text. They will make it more literal in the interpretation of it by having the actors in the same room, and it leads to these just very surprising, funny moments
Mm-hmm.
throughout the movie. So I don't know. I kind of I feel like I hear the idea of like father catfish's son, and there's a part of me that instinctually wants nothing to do with that movie. But this was funny. I don't know. I dug it. I thought there was some interesting stuff here in terms of the relationship it's trying to tell, and it made me laugh in that like cringe comedy sense several times. So I enjoyed it. I don't know if you've had a chance to rewatch it since
Uh-huh.
they sent us to it, but what I think you were positive on I love you. I love my. I keep saying I love you, Dad, for some reason instead of I love my dad. I think you were positive on I love my dad,
Yeah,
right?
I liked it coming out of South by. I thought it was a very interesting approach to what he says is a true story. And that's how it begins. It tells you this is actually something that I went through. You ask my dad, he is going to deny it, but it is the peak of cringe comedy. But it's in that cringe, like Zach said, that you actually get into the heart of the issue. Like, when you're dealing with these emotions of a father worrying that he's not as connected to his son, they're going to do something cringe. It's not going to come out like Liam Neeson Taken professing their love. It comes to the conclusion of pretending to be somebody that you're not supposed to be. Like I said right there, it had won both the audience and the grand jury award at South by for
Wow.
narrative features. So that's why I was comparing it a lot to what's his name, who also won South by last year and
Cooper?
has Cooper Rafe, very much so. A movie where he not only wrote it, but the writer director of the movie is that main guy that you see right there because what's his name? Patton Oswalt said, "Nah, you are this character, and I won't play the father unless you play the son." So he had to deal with a lot of the awkward moments. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of the way that they handle the text because it really puts you in the perspective of them and how they're receiving the text, if that makes any sense. It's while someone is lying, the other person is receiving it and adding more context to it than what it really is.
Yes.
And it really showcases when you have the other person there how they see the conversation going as opposed to what it really is. It's fantastic.
That's a great point. That's a great point because a lot of times there's like almost a double meaning text, and the way that words are said are not necessarily the way they're received.
Yeah.
Doubly so when it comes to text communication rather than
And when it's
just
your dad.
word vocal communication. So, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. It's a fun movie. I would definitely recommend it. I'm curious to see how people react to it because it's not the most comfortable watch, but it's a funny one. So yeah, I love my dad. We'll give that one a recommendation for sure. Let's move on to some of these streaming options because several had big releases over the weekend. Let's go with Peacock first and the film They/Them, a horror about a group of teenagers at a gay conversion enduring unsettling psychological mysteries while being stalked by a masked killer. This one is written and directed by John Logan, oddly enough, a guy who is a Oscar nominee, a Tony nominee, has of accolades. Slumming it with Blumhouse for
Sheesh.
movie starring Anna Klumsky, Carrie Preston, and a bunch of actors I hadn't heard of before this. Art, what was your reaction to they/them?
To give John Logan a little credit, yes, he is a huge writer. This is directorial debut, Zach. That's why he needed to go to Blumhouse. This is a story that needed to be told by a true auteur and a film house that can understand that. But Blumhouse also makes some really bad movies here and there. This might be one of those. It just feels like someone who has not talked to the young generation. We were talking about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies being a movie that doesn't need to reinvent slasher films or mystery thrillers. It just needs to understand its generation. That's a movie that understands the generation. This is a movie that the target audience, all they did was rip your movie apart the opening weekend, because I don't think any of them listen to Pink the way you do. John Logan said that he's a big fan of Moulin Rouge, and he has memorized all the Pink lyrics from all her albums.
Right.
And that magically means that all the characters at this camp connect in that way. And it just felt so inauthentic. A lot of the lines here feel very stilted. It's sometimes lit like I don't even want to say CW show. It's just lit like a terrible, campy camp thriller where you would think that this, coming from a writer, coming from a really big cast, and especially the perspective that they're handling, would know to, I don't know, approach it in a much better way. It becomes victim to what it's trying to call out, ironically.
Yeah, like, I think there's some interesting ideas that were here, and they're all handled pretty awfully. Like, there is something to this whole, like, this gay conversion camp, but they're not super, like, Christian oriented,
progressive gay conversion camp.
Right, a progression gay conversion camp. It's sort of a weird idea. But like they kind of go nowhere with that, and it's like, I don't know. On the one hand, they'll be like, "Oh, I will use your they them pronouns." On the other hand, they'll be like, "No, I'm going to misgender you and put you in the wrong." Like it's a bit of like a schizophrenic movie in its approach, and I was also like, I was surprised too by the way in which the killings unfolded, because I think you think like kids get sent away from a camp and you get an expectation of sorts. It inverted that, but it did it in the like weirdly dramatized, like poorly analyzed, stupid
soap opera
twist
way
I can think of. The twist wasn't something I was expecting, because it was so loudly bad. I wouldn't think that they would do it. It seemed like just such a bad decision that I thought they would do something more clever, and clearly they had nothing.
In this scene right here, let's see if this opens up. This exact spot right here, I knew who the killer was. They say a line where they go, "And this person, it's there, whatever," and I'm like, so it's that. it makes it so obvious. Every point that it's trying to make is just bashing you over the head. And it's crazy to think that Friday the 13th was one of Kevin Bacon's first movies, so he knows what it's like to be in an actual good horror movie that takes place in a camp. I would recommend the Fear Street movies. Go watch those. That's a series that understands how to approach an LGBTQ storyline and can actually give you the thrills that you're looking for, and a killer that at least has more going to them. If you wanted to get something dealing with a gay conversion camp, Blumhouse already has a doc called Pray Away, which I kind of feel was like was the precursor to this. Or just go watch The Miseducation of Cameron Post. Sundance winner.
Yeah.
Way more worth it.
Not a horror movie, but definitely a much better version.
It's scarier than this. It's definitely scarier
That's
than
for
this.
sure. And makes a lot more sense too, because this was just like mind-boggling decisions. I don't know. It felt like they had a goal in mind, but not necessarily an idea of how to get there in almost every scene.
Yep.
And it's from the blocking to, you mentioned like some of the lighting. So I felt like they were choosing horrible takes for the actors too. Like I feel bad for the actors.
Right.
They're clearly better in some moments than they are in us, and I think it's not. Ultimately I think that comes down to a director not really knowing what he wants to film. So, yeah, I don't know. They/them wasn't really it, even though it seemed to generate a lot of eyeballs for Peacock at least, which doesn't happen that often for NBC Universal.
Long-time writer doesn't mean good time first director.
Let's go to a much more interesting streaming.
Woo!
is Prey. It is a new prequel to the iconic 80s action flick Predator. This one comes from director Dan Trachtenberg. Trachtenberg hasn't done a movie since 10 Cloverfield Lane.
I know.
But man's has been busy. He did the playtest episode of Black Mirror. He did the pilot for The Boys. He also did an episode of The Lost Symbol, which I haven't seen. But it's been a little bit too long for the guy, Dan, in terms of returning to features. And he's got a very interesting one here that takes the familiar movie villain of the Predator and puts it in a much further back in time period than we are used to seeing,
which is
going
so cool.
to the Great Plains of 1719 to hunt a bunch of Comanche warriors. It's a really, really cool idea to take this very familiar thing, which is so linked with like modern technology and military grade weapons, and remove it from all that to kind of simplify the whole prey predator situation. I thought this was a pretty awesome movie, especially given that, you know, the Predator series has not had the most success, and this has got to be one of the better movies, if not like the best since the original, right?
And then it goes straight to streaming, you know?
Right.
Look, when Predators came out, I remember that one when it was still the Blockbuster days. That was a movie in where they had like it was Adrian Brody, and it pretty much took the first Predator movie and said, hey, don't you know we may also be predators as humans too? And it's like, yeah, we got that from the first movie. It didn't knock us over the head. The Predator, when that came out, I was doing my research for it, looking back at them because I've been rewatching all of them. Do you remember all the garbage they got for this movie? The Predator had a whole backlash because of an actor who was there, that Shane Black, who wrote and was in the original movie. It was his buddy, and he had allegations, technically convictions, I think, and that derailed that movie completely. Now that it's been some time and you've got a name change, which I think is beautiful, Predator to Prey, you get a really solid... It feels natural, and you get a really solid story, and I would say the best way to expand a franchise, bro. Like, we've had Predator in the woods already. We've had him in the city. Dude, to have Predator fight different people in different times, people have been talking about there being a samurai Predator, a Viking Predator. Just the possibilities are freaking awesome. Yes, I'd take all of that. It's a beautifully shot movie, man. This is a film that I really wish had the ability to be seen on a bigger screen. I don't know if a lot of TVs are going to do this movie justice. It is a film in where they did it in 2 languages, and they made it very confusing early on, which they didn't need to, because practically they dubbed it. But they wanted to make it seem like they shot 2 versions, you know?
Yeah, it's not quite that. It's uploaded to Hulu with a Comanche dub,
which is cool.
Makes it the first feature-length film ever to have a Comanche audio track for it, which as you said, is very cool.
Awesome.
Not the same as it being
It's not the same, and that's why
although
they said it all weird.
There's a lot of spoken Comanche in the movie
as well.
Cool too.
I wish they had the balls to go all out with it, but I understand.
Right.
You know, it's going to go to Hulu, whatever else. It's still a cool option to have, and I really like just the details that they went into this movie. This is he just does a really good job at setup and payoff. That's one of the best parts about 10 Cloverfield Lane. Love that movie. And he's able to bring that style into this film. I think that the main actress did a really good job with just seeing her like training montage and how she builds up and learning from her surroundings. Right. What they're able to do with the Predator. Yeah, she's fantastic. What they're able to do with the Predator and the practical effects, I thought was really cool. And then again, rewatching the classic one, it's crazy how little you see of the Predator until like really late into the movie.
It's a little more like
Jaws.
Yes. In Predator, and here it's like a very real. It's more like Freddy or something like, or Jason rather.
But they're able to deliver, man, on some of these kills. They're able to go in, and I thought that's one of the best parts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's elements of it where like maybe like the logic is a little off. Or the character decisions feel a little bit strange, as I feel like is par for the course in a lot of these like big blockbuster action movies, but it always kind of sells it through the filmmaking. And I think it's Trachtenberg who's really
He's that guy.
able to give you kind of like the visceral feel of these moments, and the put you like in shoes where you either feel scared or feel suddenly empowered by the way that the action is going out. Like there's this one sequence where her and her brother are finally attacking the predator, and it feels like like logically it makes no sense why they would be doing so much better than like a whole group was moments ago, but the way it's shot, you're with them and it makes sense and it feels awesome. Yeah, and it's not like I need for everything to be like perfectly made for it. I think ultimately it's just like it's fun and effective, and like you said, like there's just some really good filmmaking in terms of how the set pieces play out here. So yeah, I mean, I feel like Prey is probably the most fun of the movies that came out this weekend.
Easily.
Even with Bullet Train in theaters, I would have rather had a chance to see Prey on the big screen.
100%. I think a lot of people agree. We'll see how it does, because I don't know how they value how good it does on Hulu. But if you're going off of social media, I think people, whether they love it, whether they hate it, I think it got a lot of talk, and I think proved to a lot of people that they can still expand it.
Yeah, it's just funny, like in a year where there's been all these surprise hits in theaters and all these stories of films making way more money than we expected them to, this probably could have been a sneaky hit for Fox Disney, and
let me throw you one.
They decided against it.
I heard that there is a contract thing in where Disney has to share any theatrical releases with HBO. So if you were to consider how what was the Guillermo one that just came out?
Oh shoot.
Nightmare Alley. When Nightmare Alley premiered in theaters, it had like a really crappy thing, and then it got split when it came to HBO, and that's happened to a lot of movies. So some theorize that they didn't want to release it because then they would have to share the streaming thing. I still think that a theatrical run would be dope, but that's a theory that's been out there for that. We'll see. We'll see how they develop it for a sequel if they're able to greenlit one.
It feels like after the pandemic started, a lot of studios really like stopped doing the idea of making $50-60 million theaters. And now that like movies are starting to make money again, studios are realizing, oh, we could make like $60 million theaters.
We'll talk about the HBO thing soon. We will. But isn't it crazy? Like they're fixing their problems from last year, but then by the time they start fixing that, they got to fix the problems from this year, and there's just always going to be a problem that they're fixing. But yeah, this would have definitely benefited from that. Just from a cinematic perspective, this is a movie that was shot to be taken in with all the landscapes. Not something that you just want to watch. Or it looks beautiful at home, but it just would have looked better on a big screen. Simply put.
Yeah. All right, so we recommend Prey, and we recommend that Disney starts putting some of these movies on theaters. But yeah, you can catch it on Hulu. Another movie that you can catch streaming is Luck, the latest release on Apple TV Plus. Somewhat controversially, a release from Skydance Entertainment, the company that currently employs exiled former Pixar chief John Lasseter.
Why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah.
The movie ends, I see his name.
Yep. It's the biggest jump scare of the weekend. Anyway, it's about a woman finding herself in the land of luck and how the unluckiest person in the world must unite magical creatures in order to save the world and turn her luck around. Art, what did you think of the latest feature animated film to hit a streamer, Luck?
It's fine. It's cute. I'm a little worried on the animation side for Apple because I feel like they're able to bring in competent, easy to look at animation, but the stories themselves are pretty subpar. I know sometimes we say like, oh, this new Pixar movie, but it's like a DreamWorks story. I'm going to start using Skydance for that. And I feel bad because this is supposed to be not just Lasseter, dude. I'm watching this movie and I see an A113 Easter egg on a computer and I'm like, what? We start catching a bunch of other Easter eggs and I'm like, did a part of the Pixar team leave and are restarting over here? And yeah, come the end of the movie, it's not just John Lasseter. Pixar stopped having a little Easter egg that they used to have all the time, which was a little voice from John Ratzenberger as a side character in every single film. My man disappeared. I wondered where he went. I'm listening to a character
the bartender
that sounds just like him. He's over here. So
Yep.
yeah, I don't. It's a whole team left with them, bro. It's like when the devil left, a bunch of angels fell from heaven with the man too. So, hey, better luck on the next one because I thought this one was just okay, man. I don't know what to add to it. I will make one note though. Shout out Eva. This is the voice actress in this movie. She has had the lead in Yellow Rose, which I caught a couple years back. I know a lot of people were championing that movie. She was also in Easter Sunday. So for her to be the lead voice in a big animation and then also play, I would say she was one of my favorite characters from Easter Sunday, who is the girlfriend of his son, the son is mixed. So he's like playing both sides of being half white and not understanding his Filipino side. And she was hilarious. She comes in and kind of sets him straight. So shout out to her for being able to also have a lead animated voice here. But as far as the movie, big weekend for her, okay weekend for John Lasseter compared to what he's had in the past. But I guess he's got a whole new, they've got a lot in the works, dude, over there.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's another player in the animated feature world out there, I guess, which cool in some ways. And then, like, I don't know, the end product didn't really exactly inspire me for like the future of Skydance's productions, because this one is a little bit like, I think you mentioned, it's got the like, it feels like Pixar but a little DreamWorks thing. It's got that Pixar thing where it's like, oh, let's dive into idea that you didn't think there could be a whole world in. Let's explore the backstory of Luck. Where does Luck come from?
Sure.
In the way that, you know, Pixar will dive into what are emotions, but it all feels a little bit like a parody of one of those Pixar videos.
Yes, it feels like an Inside Out story, but like not emotions, Luck. Yes.
Yeah, it feels almost like a late night sketch version of Inside Out.
For sure.
It just like wasn't all the way there. And then also the animation just feels a little bit dated. Like the faces are a little bit rubbery. The movements are a little bit rubbery. The humans are a little bit more lifelike than they are in Pixar movies in a way that makes them fall a little more into that like uncanny valley thing where it's like, why is her mouth not moving that much? I don't know. It was just a little bit off, a little bit weird. Probably good enough to just like put on and watch with your kids, but not something that might be worth like the movie theater trip if it was playing on the big screen.
I feel you. The creative team behind Toy Story and Cars. Yo, they said Red Bird's going to be doing something over there, so hey.
Interesting.
As long as he gets the directors, I guess eventually he may have a revival over there. Do you know who directed this?
Peggy Holmes, who, as far as I can tell, has not directed a whole lot interesting before this. She did a Little Mermaid spinoff, looks like.
I guess that explains it. Well, if you have Apple TV, there you go. You have some background stuff to watch there.
Let's talk about Prime Video's biggest release of the weekend, which is 13 Lives. It hit theaters last week and is now available at home for everybody, telling the story of 12 boys and their coach who explore the Tham Luang caves when an unexpected rainstorm traps them, and the story of the world-class divers who navigate through miles of dangerous cave networks to discover the boys and get them to safety. This one is directed by Ron Howard, interestingly, who's a director who has made a lot of films that I think are good, but a lot of films that I don't like too, especially recently. And I don't know if this is a compliment or a backhanded compliment, but I'd say this is easily the best film he's made in at least 10 years, at least since Rush, if not before them. I mean, look at the track record, man.
My man made Rush. That might have been 10 years ago, Zach, but he still made Rush. That might have been 9 years ago.
I said since Rush. Rush.
Yeah, no, you're right. Hillbilly? Might just be.
Yeah, it's not great, man. But this one is a kind of beautifully filmed and gripping, understated docudrama that is a, moment by moment kind of recreation of this incredible true story that, as we've talked about previously on Intercut, was the subject of a really through documentary called The Rescue. I even preferred seeing the version of it to The Rescue, because I think one thing that I was not expecting, particularly given that, you know, you see the posters for this movie, or you see the ads for this movie, and they're really emphasizing, we got Viggo Mortensen, we got Colin Farrell, we got Joel Edgerton. Here are your famous American, or like famous in America,
you trust them,
movie stars. Yeah. The movie actually spent time with the various Thai officials and Thai locals who were really, you know, integral to operation. It's like 15-20 minutes before we even see Colin or Viggo, and I think the way in which this story really feels like it's telling you the full picture, showing you like it's not just that they were diving through the caves, but it's the people who are working to stop the rainwater from seeping through sinkholes in the mountains, and it impacted all the people in the town where the water was diverted to. And there's just a scope to this film that is balancing the story of like 20-30 characters and actually giving you like a depth to their story in a way that like a Bullet Train would never even do.
Don't do it like that.
I just well done. Damn. And go back to just understated it is, because it's such an emotional story, and I think you could really play into the make it very treacly, very melodramatic, and rather than do that, they just kind of like try to get it done, right? Like try to get to the next step. Even in the performances, there's a really amazing moment that Colin Farrell gets towards the end of this film where he's worried something's gone wrong, and rather than be at this big moment where the music gets dramatic or the sound effects get crazy, you just see him a little bit exacerbated and a little bit, he's breathing a little bit more heavily. And, you know, when you have a guy like Colin Farrell, he can really sell a moment like that. You know, it's a little bit, it's almost 2.5 hours long. This film felt shorter to me than the, 95-minute They Them. It's just, it grabs you, and there's not a moment wasted. I think this is really just like, honestly, one of the best Amazon films I've seen. And it's probably going to be an honorable mention for me when we get to Best of the Year later this year.
Bro, we were just talking last week. Yeah. 2.5 hours in the theater. Yeah, no, thank you. Is this coming out on Prime? We'll put it on Prime. We'll see that in the background. All right, I am sold. It's a StatCast.
It's a StatCast.
I saw a little bit of it. Alita was watching it in the morning, and I was telling Zach this. I was like, I saw one moment, and it looked like they were filming the outside scenes like you would the inside cave moments. And I was like, I don't know, it just looked really trippy. So I'm glad that you have given it the thumbs up, because, yeah, I also really enjoyed The Rescue. It is one of the most claustrophobic. I was nauseous after watching that one in the theaters. That one's on Disney Plus, if I'm not mistaken. So you're able to catch The Rescue.
Yeah, it is.
If you wanted to.
You will also feel that claustrophobia from this, because you get those like shots where they're diving through these tunnels and you can't see much, and the sound just fully puts you underwater. I think it's really, really good. I was not ready for how much I was going to enjoy this one. I put it on like late last night, and I'm there on the edge of my couch at like
for 2.5 hours. You already know how it ends too. You've literally seen the story.
Yeah.
Hey, the people from 13 Lives, send Zach a pillow. He needs to add to his collection.
Exactly. I will replace my rescue pillow with a 13 Lives pillow.
You don't even need to replace it, bro. You're going to have the rescue pillow, the 13 Lives pillow. I'm pretty sure they're working on a miniseries for this story as well. You're going to add that one to the collection. It's going to be a whole little set. All right. I'm looking forward to catching this one over on Amazon Prime. Sounds good.
Yeah. I hope some people check it out and like it, because I was not ready for how much I was going to enjoy this one. So solid. 13 Lives on Amazon Prime Video. We got one more streaming selection before we head to TV, and it's over on Disney Plus. It's called Star Wars Summer Vacation. Not something that I was going to check out. Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation.
Yeah.
But Art, what did you think about this one?
I just told Zach I wanted to put this on because I had one thing to say about it. These don't mean anything. They just need to get something out there. They have some of the voices that are in Star Wars. It is the goofiest thing. None of it is real. It's not canon, Zach. I know you were wondering. You don't have to worry about catching this before.
I was worried.
episode 10.
Okay. I
That
mean, if
Weird
it's
Al
not canon,
Yankovic,
I'm not watching.
they have Weird Al Yankovic in this. They got Anthony Daniels.
Ah,
A lot of people came back, but I had to see who was voicing because literally the main person who you're following is what's his name? Who's John Boyega voice? I don't even have him on here.
oh,
Finn.
yeah.
John Boyega ain't here. And I remembered they can't Disney Plus John Boyega. So the whole time you're listening to a knockoff Finn make the worst jokes possible. This has become something that I'm worried Disney Plus is going to be. It's all these filler things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're good. For example, I'm pretty sure we're not embargoed, but there's that I Am Groot little series that's coming out.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of little shorts. I told Zach it's like 22 minutes. They didn't even bother to separate them. They exported that entire file and sent it to critics. That's pretty solid. It's very nice and short. 45 minutes is still too long for this, bro. This is a straight to VHS type of pre-show that they put on the actual holiday special. This is the Lego holiday special for the summer at the end. I don't even know, bro. I just hope that this isn't what they start flooding on a weekly basis over at Disney when they don't have anything else to do. Because we've seen Netflix do a similar thing.
That's ultimately my worry with like a lot of Disney properties in general, right? Is the more navel gazing you get, the more insular and self-referential, and the more you like lower and lower the bar because it's like, oh, I recognize that's a thing that I liked when it was mentioned like 5 properties ago. The less incentive there is to actually pay attention if you aren't already a fan of these things. But if it's all they're making.
What's worse, that this is like the bad side of that, where it's doing nothing but pointing things out that you recognize, or the fact that we've seen that already in the live action films. So why does it matter that the Legos are doing it? You're seeing it in the main series anyways. But Lego Star Wars, if you wanted your summer holiday special, there you go. Whole 45 minutes of it.
All right. Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. For somebody out there. Got a couple things on Netflix we want to talk about. Just briefly, I'll mention The Sandman because Art hasn't had a chance to get on it yet. And I've only seen the first 2. This is Netflix's big new show. I think they have a lot of hopes that this will be a new property that they can expand into several seasons and make a whole franchise out of based on the very popular Neil Gaiman stories. This one is about a mortal wizard Dream who is enslaved or captured and then has to escape. After he escapes, has to rebuild his I don't even know what it is, realm or something. My issue with a lot of these shows is that they get heavy into the like the mumbo jumbo backstory that like I will pick up if you make like a couple interesting seasons and I have to watch all of it. But like after 2 episodes, I'm still a little bit like, what's going on here? I will say that in comparison to like another big Netflix sci-fi fantasy kind of genre show, Shadow and Bone, that we've talked about on Intercut, I think there is like a consistency to its vision and like it's a practicality to like what the story is about that makes me a little bit more interested to see where it goes. Like I feel like I get the stakes and the world a little bit more already than I do in something like in Shadow and Bone, where it felt a little bit more elastic. And I think with some
Test. 1, 2. Let's see, Zach.
Hello.
I think we may be coming back. The Netflix guys, they do not like you talking about.
Yeah, how dare I
It's either full.
Asperge the qualities of Neil Gaiman.
It's either the full praise or none. But hopefully we're streaming back over
Right.
here. I know that there was a little bit of a glitch there. We entered whatever the Sandman realm is, but overall you're positive on
Yeah.
the Sandman.
I'm mixed on the Sandman, but I tend to be mixed on these kinds of things, and I don't know. I feel like it's not fair to really do a full judgment on something like this after only 2 episodes. That it's clearly has such a grander aspirations. Like I'm pretty confident that and we even I see in the stream we have some comments talking. They're only really touched the iceberg in terms of where the story can and will go.
It's a lot of
So
books.
like I still feel like I'm learning the rules of the show, but I don't feel like it's necessarily like moving too fast or something. I don't know. I think it's been like an interesting introduction to the show. I could do with fewer dead pets, but that's a
Damn.
consistent complaint of mine.
That's a good warning. Either way, it's a pretty heavy show with a lot of lore, but at least if you devote your time to it, you feel that there's a good foundation in there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm curious where it's going to go because as I was mentioning, obviously like Netflix has a lot of hopes and
They put a lot of money. Yeah.
move to Amazon doing Lord of the Rings and Disney Andor, and of course we're going to talk about Thrones returning to HBO in a little bit. So I'm going to stick with it. I'm curious. I'm curious where the rest of this season will go, and especially I'm sure once you get around to it, you'll you tend to like unlock these things a little bit for me too. So
Okay.
maybe we can talk about it once you get around to it.
Looking forward to it. The Sandman. You never read the comic?
Nah, have
It
you?
scared, kind of, but it scared me. I don't
Really?
know. I think it's creepy,
Really?
bro. I don't know. There's something creepy about it.
Interesting. All right. So the other Netflix film or a series we wanted to talk about, a new docu-series called Trainwreck 99.
Previously
Up
known
until
as
last week, Clusterfuck Woodstock
Woo!
99. I guess they realized they needed to clean it up for the SEO.
Had to.
But it's, we are pretty critical here on Intercut
On
about
docs.
Netflix documentaries.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of them, a lot of very trashy ones. I feel like talking about 99 has the potential to lean on the trashier elements, but I actually thought this was a pretty well put together look at how things spun out of control at this, the infamous music festival before the infamous music festival became Fire Festival.
Yeah. Literally.
And really, there's no good comparison because this is so much more destructive and so much worse. We talked previously about the Woodstock 99 documentary over on HBO as part of their Music Box series that came out last year. What do you think stood out about Trainwreck Woodstock 99 over on Netflix?
Besides it being split into 3 episodes so they could have a little bit of a longer runtime, I thought the Woodstock one over on HBO was pretty good. It gave you like a really nice insight in under 2 hours about what happened in those 3 days, and I think it does it from like a very journalistic perspective. I can see a lot of people preferring that one. We were both worried going into the Netflix one that they love to exploit. We were looking for the Tiger King version of it. You had brought up the Fire Festival, and you brought up a beautiful meme that I had forgotten about the guy who was willing to do anything for that festival.
Evian guy.
I felt that this was going to be the doc that went for those people. Like, they wanted to interview and get people on camera to admit certain things. And they get some people in here who have stuff to do with the fest who were like key players, and they say some stuff like, oh, well, that's something, when you get that many people, stuff like that's going to happen. You're like, you really saying this on camera? But be it the subject matter, the trashier you get into this story, the more you're covering the story. This version of it, because it's broken into 3 parts, does a beautiful job letting you see the progression. I think the HBO one is like, here's the overall story, here's the report on it. This one's like having you live it minute by minute, especially when they're going through the Friday night show and then leading up to Saturday when they get to the, because Alina was watching it for the first time. She knew nothing about Woodstock. Man, she stopped doing what she was doing. She sat down. She wanted to see what was going to happen at the end of, what's these guys' names set for Saturday?
Limp Bizkit?
With Limp Bizkit. because the dude's surfing with the crowd. He's agitating the crowd, and like they start having these talks that you're having while you're watching the doc. Like, are they to blame to it? But is it really them to blame for it if they're just the ones who are being hosted there and they didn't pay for the security there? It just progresses to some really crazy things, and you would think that it's not going to get worse. And every episode has a new angle from it. And I think the way that they're able to also retrospectively look at it, and also contextualize it to how that youth hated the MTV turn. They really exemplify the turn of the millennium and it being 1999 and how people were agitated with the way that the culture was moving and how that represents Woodstock. I did not expect it to be such an effective doc coming from Netflix, who usually tends to just exploit these stuff. You had mentioned the one that we saw last week. That was just one going, look at how bad this is.
The most hated man on the internet?
Yeah, that just felt like it was covering it, not to say anything good about it or to reflect on it, but just to be like, this is disgusting and we need something disgusting to come out this week on Netflix. This felt like they sat with people who you want to hear their insights on. Hell, they got one of the big guys who ends up dying. What is it, a year after they got his testimonial? So
3 months.
I would put this on your radar if you do know or if you don't know anything about Woodstock 99. I think it does a great job of encapsulating what happened those hectic 3 days. Is it crazy that I would still go to Woodstock, though, if they started it next year?
I mean, it might be fun.
In a minute. Easily.
Look, so if you're looking at the two different docs, right? There's Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage, which is on HBO Max. And I think what that documentary is ultimately more interested in, like a cultural analysis of what happened there, who went there, who did these things, and why did this crowd, largely of these like frattish white guys, reap all this destruction, right? Like what was going on in the culture in a moment like this? Looking in more like a cultural analysis, I think the HBO Max one has plenty for you. But what I found very fascinating about the Netflix version is that it's much more of like happening.
Yes.
Like parts, and each part about new things, but it's broken down in Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So each
it's like the
is
event.
like taking you event, seeing how things, and I think you really bigger picture of how it's not really like it was one incident. It's incidents piling on top of incidents, neglect leading to further neglect, and ultimately, whereas the HBO documentary seems to be more indicting of the crowd that was at Woodstock 99, I think this documentary falls more on the side of organizers' fault for not being prepared, seeing that for not having the right. So there are kind of like different takeaways to take from these different documentaries, and I don't think either is wrong or necessarily even worse than the other one. It's just sort of different analyses, and I thought they were both compelling. But I would also highly recommend the Netflix one, because I'm really into seeing progression through these 3 episodes.
Yeah, I agree with you, dude. When it comes to documentaries, there needs to be multiple perspectives. Like, you can't have one definitive one, right? Like, even with Elvis this year, it's like, that's not going to be the only Elvis performance we see in our lifetime. There will be several. We will continue to see Trainwreck docs. Hell, one day we're going to get a biopic. There's going to be a lot that's going to be discussed for this one, because that was the last time I think they had Woodstock, if I'm not mistaken. So it lives in infamy.
I mean... Yeah, I know they still do like smaller festivals there, but definitely not like the big music festival like that. No.
But I agree with you. Watching both, I think, gives you a good. It just builds the overall flashback look at how it all went down.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised.
All right,
pretty
so
good.
Trainwreck, Woodstock 99 over on Netflix. We would both recommend it. But that's about all that we've been watching over the past week. Let us know what you've been watching either in the live stream or in the comments below this video. And you can also, if you're listening to us, send us an email, intercutpod@gmail.com. We always love hearing from the inner cuties, hearing what you have been watching, and if you take any of our recommendations, because what else would be the fun of this if we didn't get to actually recommend some good stuff to some people,
Agreed.
All right, let's get to the yay or nays, because it was a big week in terms of film news. And the number one place we have to start is with all the happenings in the world of of Warner Media Discovery, of HBO Max, and the president of Warner, David Zaslav, making a lot of changes in terms of the future of the company, some big, some small. I think where we'd like to start out is in terms of all the different projects that have been canceled in the past week or so. Most notably, I think the one that a lot of people have spent a lot of words on, lamenting on the internet, is the cancellation of the Batgirl movie.
Yep.
One that $90 million behind it, and many movie stars, including Leslie Grace, who's going to play Batwoman, or Batgirl rather. Michael Keaton, who was set to
Returning
his role as Batman.
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser, who was
Oh,
set
I
to
was
play the
so
villain in the movie.
excited for that one.
A lot of things that people were excited about with it, and now, despite dropping $90 million on the film, it will no longer be released, not just in theaters, but not on HBO Max either. They're essentially turning this entire movie into a tax write-off.
What kind of?
But it wasn't even the only project canceled by the brain trust over at HBO Max. The recently completed Scoob prequel is also not coming out. The LeBron James produced House Party that was supposed to come out next month is coming out.
They could take that one.
Including the Wonder Twins, canceled under David Zaslav's tenure. Art, let's start here. What do you think from AX?
Terrible. I don't understand. I don't know my tax credits, I guess, I don't know how you're going to gain more money not releasing a movie that's already finished. I think it's disrespectful to the filmmakers you work with, but considering a lot of the other things that this man said about, I don't know, every streaming service from Netflix. Netflix pretty much said, screw you, Martin Scorsese. This man came out and said, screw you, Clint Eastwood. Like, what? There is no, if you're not going to respect the older filmmakers, why would any younger filmmakers want to come work with you? Just looking back at this right here with Batgirl, the directors, Alina and I were like, aren't these the guys who did Bad Boys for Life?
Miss Marvel.
Bro, and Miss Marvel.
And yeah.
That's not a good look for you to be taking young filmmakers who are getting hits elsewhere and just telling them, continue to go elsewhere. You're going to, if you come with me, you're going to end up working and not even seeing your finished product. That's just terrible. It makes absolutely no sense to me. In terms of a lot of the other movies, Scoob had to record their score because you heard about this? They already paid the musicians. So even though they heard it was canceled, everyone still showed up for the day and recorded the score for a movie that no one's ever going to see. But they had already been paid for it, so they showed up. It makes no sense to me, Zach. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I just like, the film in particular is weird because it's so much of a collision of art and commerce, and it takes several, dozens of craftspeople, maybe hundreds of craftspeople, to do their art at whatever expert level they're on, try and like pull together the creative vision, and that really like that it can just be, it's gonna affect the bottom line company, and that it will never be seen as a result of that is very bizarre. And I think it's something that is for people who are media, that media can be so easily erased, even if it's been made. I just find it hard to believe that this is the most financially sound decision that a company can make now. What weird laws exist that they can just erase a 90 million movie, not even like put it out on HBO Max?
So this new people said the last people were wrong. And the last people said the last people were wrong. So you just got to wait for the next people to tell you that these people were wrong. Like, it's just constant mistakes after constant mistakes. Do you really think this is for tax reasons, or do you think they're just doing a hard reboot on wanting to, as he said, fully go the Marvel style, make sure everything's connected, and the way that they want to connect it is not going to include this version of Batgirl. So before you even start liking her, she's gone. But how is the Flash still okay? Bro, they just put a warrant out for this man, and everyone who's working on the Flash says that is A-okay. I'm I don't get what's going on over there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that ultimately putting out a movie like it was terrible. And like, I highly doubt it's like that bad. But even if it's terrible, I don't think it hurts DC as like a valuable, brand, right? Like, there will always be interest in those superheroes, regardless of whatever spin-offs or side things are happening. And I get the idea of wanting to go in a different direction than your predecessors, but it's just such a hard pivot so suddenly that removes the agency.
Yeah.
That it's shocking. And, I guess Christopher Nolan, when he was saying, like,
where's he at?
This company, he moved over to a company
Universal.
That's putting its movies in theaters.
And that trailer looks so beautiful before Nope.
It does.
Which I came up with a theory, though. I'm going to have to tell you later why it plays before Nope. Nope's.
Or Nope, let us explain, by the way. It's
You'll still get it, but we just keep coming up with new things, Zach. Nope is a movie within the universe of Nope, Zach. I'm gonna have to explain that to you later. That's not even a spoiler. That's just the whole thing right there. But yeah, this is sad, dude. I don't know. I'm very disappointed because you and I think, woke up with a bunch of other people that day looking forward to a call. An HBO Warner call? Worried that HBO might be gone by the end of the day, man. I was refreshing my HBO, which you're kind of worried because, the app kind of sucks, so you don't know if it's gone or if that's just the way that it works. But there's so many changes they could do, and I guess adding all of those reality shows. It's already hard to find a new thing on HBO, and now you're going to have to go through all the Property Brothers. And
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to dig into the call itself. There was definitely some dispiriting things. It's good memes, but dispiriting things said about how they view their network. I thought it was interesting when they had that one thing that was, these are our brands, our franchises, iconic character. Like, who decides what row Looney Tunes should go on? I don't know. It's bizarre. But they did announce there are plans to combine HBO Max with Discovery Plus sometime in 2023.
Yep.
They've also announced that some of the big shows on Discovery Plus will start airing episodes on HBO Max as well. So as you were alluding to, it's not quite the HBO going away thing that we all fear. A little bit more likely that Discovery is going to get folded to HBO Max now.
We'll see.
But still, it changes the priorities and puts a bigger emphasis on all these non-scripted shows. Not all the shows for women, according to HBO.
Yeah, I have it pulled up there. It's Discovery Plus is where the females go. It's unscripted. It's lean back. It's the home of genre dumbs. Which here we had a topic of the week on genre dumbs, of course, as opposed to HBO Max, where the males are at. Zach.
Yeah, that's my fandom zone on HBO Max.
This is hilarious, but you have to understand, this is how they speak. This is how corporate people speak. I'd like to go back to one of my favorite lines from Michael Bay. He goes, they is always the studio. They don't know what they want. This is how they see things. This is, it's the most minuscule way of putting everything into checkboxes. And when you have those people making the decisions, you don't end up with good creative movies, sadly.
Yeah, unfortunately. Let's also talk about the updates to HBO Max itself, because as part of their streamlining of HBO Max, the service has quietly removed a few movies made for HBO Max, originals, the kind of think, if anything, should permanently live on HBO Max. Yet films like Moonshot, Superintelligence, The Witches, An American Pickle, Lockdown, Charm City Kings, they're all gone, no longer hosted on the HBO Max platform, as well as some HBO original shows like Vinyl, which comes with an episode directed by Martin Scorsese. Camping, the Leonardo, Mrs. Fletcher, the limited series run with Merritt Weaver and Donald Gleason. Beartown, which I've read and put on a best of list, not on HBO Max anymore. Art, what do you think about the disappearing movies and TV from HBO Max?
Part of me feels like we've been getting this a lot. Like Harry Potter leaves all the time and they rent it out somewhere else and then they bring it back.
Yeah, so I just found they Warner and Universal have a deal where 8 months it flips between the two.
That's exactly what's been happening. It's so goofy.
Yeah.
I fear this is what we're going to have everywhere. The moment that Disney Plus was able to snatch away the Netflix Marvel shows, nothing matters, Zach. You know how many Netflix shows say Warner Media right at the beginning? Like Sweet Tooth is Warner Media. The Keep Breathing one that just came out is Warner Media. At what point is Netflix going to get screwed out of the fact that they're just a distributor and all of those shows that they co-partnered with from Universal can just be snatched back? It's like the craziest way of... mind you, I just saw Industry, so I've got all that stuff in my head. You give them everything, and then in the last minute, pull them out, you dry them out. That's where I feel we're heading, where it's just going to be a game of licensing. Can you over-license or under-license other people?
Yeah. I mean, what's also interesting and a little bit different about this than like even the Netflix shows is these aren't properties that are being pulled off of HBO Max so they can go onto Paramount Plus or something.
They're just gone?
They're just being pulled from HBO Max. They're just on VOD now.
Oh, but they're still on VOD.
Yes.
Okay, it's not like a Disney The Vault.
Well, I don't think Camping is on VOD. I'm not sure. Maybe it is, but dear.
It's just lame. It's just a way I feel that's going to be the new way to build hype. Take it away, leave it gone for a bit, and then it brings back. It's like the McRib. We're going to be treating these streaming properties like McRibs.
Yeah. So what some of the analysis was saying is that essentially HBO decided it wasn't worth continuing fees to these companies versus, even though it's not like full residuals used to be, it's still too much money for them to keep these shows on for whatever reason they've calculated. But I don't know. It sucks, man. Like especially the Macdonald's. It's like stick with the movies made. What's the of signing up for the service? The stuff you made isn't on the service.
People are signing up for a year, and those are the things that are in the advertisements, but they get away with it because a little tiny asterisk that says, by the way, we can do whatever we want. By the way, we get...
Right.
It's bad, bro.
And I that has been really interesting is I think this more than anything has creatives in Hollywood worried, right? If you pulled up that tweet from the Dickinson showrunner, Alana Smith, but she was talking about how she was begging for a physical of her show because in the event that Apple TV Plus goes away, which who knows, maybe it will in the future.
We've been saying this
where
too,
are people going to exclusively for streaming that companies like Netflix don't want to allow to DVD. So like I was on the fence about buying that BoJack Horseman season 1 and 2 collection, but I really need it.
Stranger Things, changing things, and unless you have the original copies of it, you're not going to see what was there or not. And then they said things didn't get changed, but they did get changed. You just physical copy, physical media, I think is right. That's what I should have written in the back. Might as well just tattoo it. Physical media. Just stick to that.
I don't know. It's a concerning future for sure. Let's talk a couple more news stories very briefly. Neon is exploring a sale. Is next to A24, probably the premier indie distributor, and it's looking at a potential $2.5 billion valuation. I think that's what A24 was valued at.
I think we get 2 more patrons, and I think we can make an offer.
Right? I mean, this is the company that recently broke through and won Best Picture. Parasite. It's also delivered a lot of, I think, our favorite movies the past couple of years, including stuff like Worst Person in the World they had, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire they had. It's a really cool company, but as is the case with any of these upstart companies that make a name for themselves, they see they can make a lot of money
on the
selling to a bigger bigger fish. What do you think about the neon sale?
You know, doesn't have to be Rocky. Hopefully, they get somebody who respects them and allows the creatives to continue making the creative decisions. But usually, it's the selling part that the moment someone pays for you, if they're the ones putting up the money, they're going to tell you what to do. So hopefully, they don't get sold to someone who doesn't care. I'll put it to you that way. Simple.
Yeah.
That.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you hope that whatever their future is, it just allows them to be neon, but at a bigger level.
That's it.
But we'll see.
Keep y'all
Netflix
updated.
Netflix announced a new partnership with Amblin Pictures, which is notable considering some previous comments from Amblin Steven Spielberg.
Let's do it, bro. I am all for it. Yeah, I love it. I want to see E.T. going to IMAX, and I want to see E.T. going straight to Netflix.
E.T. couldn't make it. He was stuck at home.
Yeah, Quibi couldn't survive.
Albuquerque, a set of new bronze statues donated to the city by Bad creator Vince Gilligan. The statues are, of course, of the iconic duo Walt and Jesse. Cranston and Aaron Paul were on hand for the unveiling as well. Art, what TV show do you think most deserves a set of statues about its main characters?
You know what? On that Jersey Bridge, y'all need the Sopranos on there. Just Tony chilling there, like literally them sitting down. What's his name, doing the whole tanning? Just a set of them next to a bridge, I think. Would
or
be
out
dope.
In front of the store.
Right out in front of the store. I don't know. I really like the Rocky one. I think it's really cool that the Rocky one's in Philly. Yeah. I'm trying to think of what Chicago would have. People probably want the Ferris Bueller coming out of the house or something. But
be cool.
I don't know. What do you got?
Ooh. I mean, I don't know why my mind, just because I'm talking to you, jumped to a Jack statue lying down in the sands of Hawaii or something like that.
All right.
Jack Shepherd.
Sure. I like that.
I don't know. They've probably got some ode to the Game of Thrones over in Croatia or wherever they were filming.
I'm just laughing living in Albuquerque, knowing that you've been fully represented by these two people who had a meth empire.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've brought a lot of film and TV production down there at the very least.
They pushed a lot.
Duo is unveiling a new feature that allows users to try and learn just in time for the unveiling of HBO's new show, House of the Dragon. Art, yay or nay, you're going to download this feature when they unlock the Navi ability later this year.
Zach, not only will we be doing the entire episode for Avatar in the Navi language, but I'm hoping that I will learn High Valyrian. Both of us will learn by the finale of the new Game of Thrones, and we will just do the whole show in High Valyrian. Can you imagine being yelled at in High Valyrian? If they don't have a feature where the Duolingo thing threatens you by saying shame, just delete it. Just delete the app.
Yeah, they need better copywriters if they don't do that for sure. All right. One last thing before we move on to the new to see. Trent Lamb, one of our frequent listeners, asked, between Saga, I, The Last Man, and Paper Girls, which one would you start reading first? These are the iconic Brian K. Vaughan stories aside from Scott Pilgrim. I've only read Why the Last Man, so I'm going to leave the question to you. Which of those three is the best one to read first?
I have both my Saga and my... So this is my Saga issue number 1. This is my Why the Last Man issue number 1. I don't have this one graded. And then Paper Girls. Paper Girls is good. I'm going to have that at 3. I'm going to have Saga at 2. But mind you, this is still going. You already know. This is my favorite comic of all time. Why the Last Man. If you have the opportunity to read that, pick that bad boy up, read it from beginning to end, and then tweet out that you want to show it, because we haven't gotten a show of it yet.
There we go. All right, so I think that's it for the yay or nay. Before we get into the new to see, we'd like to thank the InterCutie Plus patrons, those wonderful people who are supporting the show. They are Ewan, Julieta, Garrett, Tim, Elizabeth, Josh, Ashley, Marion, Michael, D.A., Matt, and Di. Our economy level members are Tushar, Kate, Connor, Pete, John, May, and Ricky. And of course, a big thanks to the producer level patrons, Awkward, and you Denver. Thanks again for all, and a reminder that you too can become a member at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for benefits like early access to the Intercut episode outlines, access to our private Discord channels, on the Intercut Discord, which you can see a link to in the description below, and an invitation to our monthly patron Google Meet. Still got to do our August patron Google meeting, maybe 2 weeks from now. We'll get that one going. Gotta triangulate with the patrons and our schedules as well. But yeah, looking forward to hanging out with all y'all again soon. So be sure to go to patreon.com/intercutpod and sign up to become a member. Art to see and talk about the latest coming out over the next week, starting with tomorrow, Locke and Key season 3, a show that I think you've stuck for through its first 2 seasons.
Yep.
What's going on in the world of Locke and Key?
It's a pretty decent adaptation of the Joe Hill graphic novel. If you haven't read it, it's a very interesting story where these kids go back home to an old family house where they find these magical keys that each have a different power. Pretty interesting character. Some of you may know a lot of the cast. I'm pretty sure it's, what's her name? Emilia Jones, was she not just in the Oscar-winning Coda? You have a pretty good cast that's gathered together for this family drama, but I think the most intriguing part is just seeing the different things they're able to do with the keys. But it does have its teen melodrama here and there. I think season 3 may be wrapping things up, but I'm not sure. I don't know how the series has done so far, but it's been a decent show.
Cool. Then on August 12th, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming out. Let's start with more Netflix and Day Shift. It's a new movie with Jamie Foxx, Dave Franco, and Snoop Dogg. It's got like it's like a
action comedy.
Yeah, vampire hunting action comedy kind of thing going on. I don't know. Looks like it could become some fun.
It's Netflix's big release.
Not hearing any buzz yet
because there's embargo.
Yeah,
they don't want no buzz.
That's maybe not the best sign.
Yeah, but we'll see. I didn't care too much for his last outing with Netflix, but maybe this is the one.
All in theater weekend is Emergency Declaration.
I've not heard of this movie.
Oh, and I don't know. Also in theaters this weekend is Emily the Criminal. This is one that we caught back at Sundance earlier, starring Aubrey Plaza as a down-on-her-luck woman who gets involved in a credit card scam that pulls her into a criminal underworld, featuring Aubrey in a type of role that you may have seen her in before. More serious, a lot more restrained. I really like this movie. I think it's a pretty cool, low-level crime thriller.
I think it's really good. I'd say, I know I gave it a junior price for sure, so if you're able to catch this in theaters, I think it's worth the matinee price. E.T.
returns to theaters for the IMAX experience.
Ooh, I'm going to be going to that. I know that this is the first time that it's been released in IMAX, and going off the trailer, it does seem like they have a little bit of an expanded ratio, so I will be there watching the new Spielberg. The new old Spielberg.
You know what I thought was interesting in the trailers advertising this? There's obviously been a lot said about the way Spielberg has gone and re-edited elements of the film, like how the guys who have the guns at one point, it was re-edited so they have walkies. They got the guns again in the trailer.
I saw that, dude. They're going back to so that's pretty cool. I like seeing that. Yeah.
Pretty excited. All right. Also in theaters this weekend, Fall, the latest from Lionsgate about best friends who find themselves at the top of a 2,000-foot radio tower.
Gonna have to buy a ticket, I guess.
You're just gonna have to buy a ticket to find out. I can't tell you that. I'm sorry. Free Chol Soo Lee, another Sundance selection from earlier this year, hits theaters in New York this weekend, but it goes nationwide next week. So we'll bring it up again. Then, keeping with Sundance movies, Girl Picture hits theaters this weekend. This was one of Amanda's favorites out of Sundance. What award it won, but it was something. But it's a delightful little coming-of-age dramedy about some teenage girls going into adulthood. I thought it was cute. Definitely for you. So keep Girl Picture on your radar.
Audience winner.
I love my dad.
Cinema Dramatic was Girl Picture.
There we go. So yeah, it's an audience Audiences loved it. You got to check out.
Audiences is also loved. I love
my dad, the South by Southwest Audience Award winner, which now is on VOD weekend. So if you can't make it out to theaters, Patton Oswalt is available on streaming for you. Inu-Oh hits theaters. This looks like a new anime import. Yeah. Do you know anything about it?
No, I've just seen a couple of the trailers. I think the animation looks pretty cool, and I'm curious to check this one out. It's getting a pretty big release over here. Sometimes I'm worried with the G-Kid stuff that it's only going to get like a Fathom release or something like that, and you end up having to like drop the $18 for it. So I'm glad that it's getting a full out release.
Mack and Rita hits theaters this weekend as
Reportedly.
well. We think.
There's screenings for this literally tomorrow, but no showtimes for it on Friday. But if you go to Regal's like, you could bring a friend. You could just fill the whole theater. Here's free popcorn. Here's everything. They're doing a whole thing for it. It's like a 13 going on 30, but it's 30 going on 60, I think.
Yeah.
70, my bad.
Like cool that Diane Keaton's getting those parts, I guess. But
cute,
I don't know.
I guess. We'll see.
Would be interesting if we could find out everything. Never on Netflix, the Mindy Kaling show that I think is a pretty big hit for them, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been. I kind of gave up on the show season.
Yeah, I've caught the last 2 seasons. I'm curious your thoughts if you do get back on it, because season 2 has our boy from American Vandal, the dude who's behind the camera, and he plays like a Disney, an ex-Disney
Tyler?
kid. Yeah, he's fantastic in it, and that's when I was just like, yo, this kid's got some comedy chops in him. So I'm curious to see what they bring for season 3.
Post Malone. Say music on Freevee, much, but they're starting to push some stuff out there. So
yep. They were
free
IMDb,
service for people out there.
TV that got transformed to Freevee, and I think this is the smartest thing they did because they integrate it now into Prime. So Freevee is free views with ads, but if you're on Prime, it just automatically plays for you. So it's a part of all the streaming services, like Netflix just announced, where they're all going to be doing an ad-free version, and then the premium stuff, you pay the big bucks for it. But we're going to see a lot of concert films, I feel, going to Freevees and Netflix and all of the ad-supported ones.
Being in lots of fans. Secret Headquarters. I think this one hits theaters and Paramount Plus. It's about super stuff and health. I don't know.
Sure.
It looks like that Robert Rodriguez one that was really bad. I'd said the one that was really bad.
Then reboot 2 Spy Kids then.
Yeah, exactly. What is it? We Are Heroes?
We Are Heroes. Like that was... Yes, that's the best way that I could put it. But, hey, glad Owen Wilson just does not vibe when it comes to streaming releases, bro. Not good.
Yeah, it's only in the worst ones, except for, I guess, Loki. But
we'll see. IMDb likes it.
Yeah. Summering hits theaters, another Sundance selection. This one from James Ponsoldt, a director I like a lot. Doing a movie I did not like a lot. But it's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but it's tonally everywhere. I've never seen a kids movie that does what this does. But then at the same time, it's honoring Stand By Me, I guess. I guess.
I sort of... Definitely like interesting ideas in there, but it feels like there's interesting ideas that should be 4 or 5 movies.
That's what it is, for sure. Yeah.
This Fool hits Hulu, all 10 episodes at once. I don't know if you know anything about that one. I just like the title.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then We Are as Gods is in theaters. This is an interesting documentary. I forget where we first caught
South
this
by
one.
Southwest.
There we go. But last year, right? Not this year?
Dude, this could have been like...
Or maybe it is this year.
This could have been like 2 years ago, but no, it was not this year's. It would have been last year's or the 20... No, it would have been 2021. They released it as a part of their full virtual lineup that they were able to do before going back to public. And this is about the dude who wants to bring back freaking woolly mammoths. And they're like, bro, but where's it going to stop? And it gets really into this idea of what genetics and different things can we bring back, and are we playing God, and where does it stop? And then this is a dude who's tired of hearing Jurassic Park. He just wants to do things, and he may not get it by the time he dies, but I think it's a fascinating doc, and I would check it out.
a fascinating documentary, and I think one of the things that they do well is sometimes you get documentaries that follow these interesting critical thinkers, and it's a little bit too much of like a celebration of them and a support and just constantly supporting their vision. And this does a nice job of both like
They go at 'em.
showing what a genius he is and also giving you the counter arguments while not really feeling like they're too biased in one way or the other.
Yeah.
So shout out to the directors behind this, David Alvarado and Jason Suss, who are actually pretty interesting documentarians. They did the Bill Nye movie a couple of years ago.
Oh, nice.
Immortalists was another interesting documentary they've done. So I've had my eye on them for a bit, and We
They're
Are As
solid.
Gods is one of their better ones for sure.
For sure.
All right, and then also this weekend, August 13th, The Princess hits HBO. This is one of the few Sundance movies from this year that we did not get to catch,
Nope.
but it's a documentary looking at the life of Diana. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to catch up with this one. The people who did get at Sundance this year seem to.
Yeah, I heard great things, that it's all archives, and I mean we've gotten a dozen Diana docs, and there's several on Netflix, but this was one that I was hoping to catch at the festival, so I'm glad that we'll finally be able to catch it. A lot of the docs from Sundance that we missed are going to HBO, and that's a good thumbs up for me.
All right, so that's what's new. D. Let's talk about our picks for the week. Why don't you start it off? What should people check out over the course of this week?
Sticking to HBO, if you have not seen the movie Belle, it is an anime about a girl who is able to create an entire personality online where she is this massive singer, but nobody knows that it's her. Is she willing to risk all that when she finds another boy online who may need her help in the real world? I thought it was a really good doc. I thought it was a really good VR movie that talks about how you can create a whole other personality on there. That may not tie all the drama perfectly, in my opinion, but I still think it's worth the watch. Some very beautiful animation that is over on HBO Max for now, for now. As They Made Us, one of my favorite movies of the year, is available not just on Showtime, but it is also available, as this boots up over here, on Hoopla. So if you got a library card, you don't even have to worry about paying for a subscription. It is free over on Hoopla. I highly, highly recommend it. I thought it was a very good drama. Check that one out. But also big shout out to Showtime, who's been picking up a lot of festival picks. The Novice, I know, is one that you really enjoyed. And right before you go see The Orphan, go catch her in this, because she does a fantastic job in that movie. That's on Showtime, as well as a Sundance Festival pick from a couple years ago, The In-Between Girl. A lot of these movies, we catch them at festivals, and we know they may not have a theatrical release. People aren't going to get them on VOD. But now that they're on streaming services, especially on Showtime, you got a couple of festival picks to pick from. So Showtime has The Novice, In-Between Girl, As They Made Us. But over on Hulu, Reservation Dogs is back with their season 2. Season 1 was really good, and I've been loving the trailers that they have for season 2 and how they're going to carry out these characters. I would highly recommend this one. A lot of people always recommend the one on HBO that they really enjoy about the pirates with Taika, but this has been my Taika TV series that I've been gravitating towards, even more so than What We Do in the Shadows, surprisingly. But that's been pretty good. Yeah, I don't know why, dude. I like the vibe. I like the hangout that they have going on.
It's a cool vibe. Yeah.
It's a cool vibe. What is the complete opposite of a cool vibe and has stressed me out has been everybody who's been recommending Industry, because season 2 is on the horizon, or it just premiered. So I'm catching up on season 1. Zach said to me that this is, what was it, Succession? Right? Is that what you said?
For horny people?
But for super, super horny people. And you get that from episode 1. Everyone's just trying to, as it says right there, trade up. They're all trying to make it in this business world. This main actress who's right here, she is in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies and killed it. She is also fantastic in this. Mahala Harold. Great job. Great job.
I see Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And there was a Q&A afterward with Mahala Harold, as well as Maria Bakalova and Helena Rain, the direct film, and Hyla just completely dominated the Q&A.
Yeah.
She's like radiant, so verbose and eloquent in her answers, and really owned that room in a way that made me completely buy into her potential as a movie star. Because I also do really think she's excellent in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. But I've only seen like 2 episodes of Industry so far, and I like her in it. But now I really because I'm all in on Mahala.
And the whole show in general is just a really solid show, but it gets you anxious because the sound design, you feel like you're in that room with them, in that office,
Yeah.
and the phones just don't stop ringing. I kept looking around thinking mine was going off, but I am excited to finish it up and to start season 2 of Industry. And finally, if I were to give you one theater pick, I believe this is in virtual theaters and maybe in some independent ones, but one of my favorite docs of this year is Clay Dream. It looks back at the man who created claymation, dude. And it is one of the craziest stories in terms of his career, what he went for, and what it ended up becoming. I would highly, highly recommend this doc. Hell, read the Wikipedia page. Just learn about this man. It is really good, and Clay Dream is a perfect doc that covers all that. So my picks for the week being Clay Dream, Industry, Reservation Dogs, In Between Girl, The Novice. Showtime's finally pulling up with stuff. And Belle. Belle's really good over on HBO. What about you, Zach?
A lot of good stuff to watch.
Solid week.
I'll go with a couple picks. First of all, we talked about it briefly, but I'll mention Emily the Criminal again because I think it's just a really solid film. I think it's the debut for it as well.
Could be.
Which, given how effective and good this film is, I just think it's a surprise. It'll come as a surprise for people, given I think people have this one vision of Aubrey Plaza, and she's such an actress. Like, this is a whole different side of her, and a really gripping story too. So I'm excited to Emily the Criminal. I did get a chance to Bodies, and so I'm excited for people to see it now that it's expanding in its second week. So maybe check if it's playing near you, and then you can go back and watch our after credits review, which is already up. It's like at least 15 minutes of non-spoilery talk. If you haven't seen the movie yet, then go watch the movie and come back and we'll talk to you about why the twist works. Bodies, a really fun time. But my other pick for the week is one you can watch at home. It's 13 Lives, the Amazon Prime movie we were talking about earlier, talking about the cave rescue. I just think it's a really, really gripping, well done docudrama. I was not expecting to be as engrossed in the film as I was, particularly given the fact that, as we've talked about, like, I've seen this story dramatized before. I wasn't like worried what was going to happen next. I knew everything that was about to happen, but it's all done so effectively, so authentically, it feels like, that I was really with it. I liked it a lot. I'm hoping people catch up with it. So yeah, Emily the Criminal, Bodies, and 13 Lives are my picks for the week. But I'll also give a second to Reservation Dogs, because that's a great show.
Fantastic show. Nice hangout show.
All right, but I think that's about all for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's ZSHEVICH. And check out my YouTube or TikTok channels at Multiplex Show. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me over at Let Me Explain on Twitter, on Letterboxd, on YouTube, but every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I happen to like Overcast. And then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio feed, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can watch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of the Intercut Weekend Must Watch streaming on our YouTube channel every Monday. And please leave us a comment, like the video, consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. And shout out to those of you in the Philippines for putting us on the TV and film podcast charts out there. Sorry that I didn't see Easter Sunday. Maybe I should now.
Sorry, I didn't like it more.
Like our Facebook. Yeah, right. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Support our Patreon. All of them are at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from all the guests we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, I'm smarter than a beaver. Is Prey the best movie I saw this weekend? I think it is.